everyone, Eloquent-Phony here. Just tried a little silly intro in Premiere Pro. And so this drawing is going to be a painting of which I fill in the background and do all the colors for the line art by Unleash. She's a fellow artist who I've been friends with for a fairly long time. I'm not exactly sure when we started talking, but she had been following my videos and we just talk on Instagram, and we've talked more lately. So she made me this drawing as part of a collab piece because I was like, hey girl, we should finally do something together. And she actually wrote up a little just what she was thinking about when she was drawing this. So let me go ahead and read it for you. She said, I used one square brush for this drawing. When thinking about the line thickness, I keep things like white, shadow, white, shadow, contrast, and focal point in mind. I wanted the first look to be on the butterfly, hence the eye on its wings. Our eyes are drawn to, well, eyes. And the broadest lines from his wings are, when be on the butterfly, and the broadest lines from his wings. Those also separate it from the girl. I'm doing a terrible job reading this, I'm so sorry. Shape-wise, I went for a triangle shape for the witch's pose. So you can see that in the drawing, like everything is very triangular, with some like straight lines like for her shoulder. So her hat, toes, butt, and then softer, rounder line shapes since I wanted the drawing to feel relatively calm and charming. I used sharper lines for the grass and book for some contrast and just a bit of tension. So yeah, I agree with her on that. The straight lines of the book really contrast well against the butterfly. It'll show up soon. And I'm sorry, I was like literally texting her while making this video. That's why I had to I didn't have to, but I started and stopped a lot. So for me, when I was painting this line art, I knew I wanted her to be of a darker skin tone, which is something I don't normally do, sadly, even though I am, part of the club. I don't know, I never felt comfortable tackling it because I didn't feel like I was like quote unquote black enough to, which is so weird. Like, I don't even know how to explain it because I felt like I couldn't do black characters justice, and I don't know, kind of avoided it for a very long time because of my own personal struggles with race and I don't know, I think a lot of African American people, black people all over the world feel that kind of pressure, and it's a hard thing to deal with personally. Like I'm mixed, I'm black and white, but I don't know, I always associated more with the white side of my family just because there was really only one. My dad was black and everybody else was either white or mixed. So it was just a different kind of upbringing, and I think it made me a better person all around just because I've always grown up accepting, and like I never, I mean, I don't know, I felt the hate, I was accepting of people, but I understood the hate, and I never really knew why it was so strong. And it's okay. In my art now, I want to show more representation for people like me and people like my friends who don't really get to see themselves as much in major motion pictures and really all kinds of media. So, especially with the Black Lives Matter movement, I think it's very important for black people to be seen in media, and I want my own media to reflect that as well. So as far as the tutorial part of this video goes, I knew when I pick colors, I tend to pick three, like my three main colors, and in this it was pink, brown, and that like school bus yellow on the butterfly. It does end up changing a bit, but that's what I start with when I start drawing. I start with my colors that I want to show through all of the drawing and set it so, because I do tend to add a lot of colors towards the end, and you'll see that. But when I'm doing it just planning wise, I'd like to start with a couple. And I did end up grabbing a reference for like an orange butterfly because like Unli was saying in her draft of what she was thinking of when she was drawing this, I was also thinking the butterfly would be my focal point. So I wanted it to have the most color contrast compared to anything else in the drawing. And I wish I would like go faster and stop texting because it's like so weird. I mean, I guess you can see the cats in the background and it gives some interest to why, nothing's moving on the screen. But yeah, going back to color theory, I color picked a little bit off that butterfly. I know some people say not to, but I feel like I've done enough coloring by hand and like just by sight alone, that I can use the shortcut to, you know, color pick my colors, because it's just like I know I can do it, it just takes a long time. It's like, it's really, I'm not a better or worse artist just because I couldn't like color pick a color like first try, you know. And I know some people, like skill-based artists, like that's something that could be of a concern, but I feel like in the end you're not cheating, and cheating in art is relative, you know. It's just like some people consider like, you know, copying and pasting and like collaging something as a cheating because you didn't make it yourself. But I'm just like, no, you put the tools together and you put the time together to make it into something interesting. And if you're really copying, then it'll be obvious. But I don't know, I think there's a lot of coincidence in art, and like I've heard or read across the years just stories of people finding coincidences, or this artist is copying another artist. But I'm just like, as long as it's different enough, who cares? Like, people, like, especially when it comes to people, like we make a lot of the same poses, we find a lot of the same things attractive, so it's gonna happen. And as long as you're not like directly selling another person's art, you're not tracing another person's art for your own profit, I feel like there's a lot of leeway when it comes to art, which is like something I've been considering a lot, because when it comes to music, I'm not an expert on music, but there's a lot of sampling in the music industry, like literally like taking another song and plopping it in your song. And it's like, how do you consider copyright in that circumstance? Because there's not really that kind of, what's it called, sharing in the art industry. Like we don't, I mean, you could do that, like you could patch up, here's a piece of a drawing to add to your drawing, but it would be a lot less common and really only in close circles. Like I haven't really heard of artists doing that. Like I've heard of artists sending each other line art, like in this scenario I'm doing a collaboration with Unli, but I don't know, I'm curious what people think about that. Like, do you consider it cheating? Like, who gets the cut of the end amount? And I guess it doesn't matter until there's money involved, because once there's money involved, it's like, whose ownership is this? Like, should you get part of the profit? How much part of the profit, considering what you did? How many hours did you put into it? I don't know. It's just something I've been thinking about a lot, even though I haven't really stepped my foot into like the true art industry. Like, I make money off of my art, but it's not like by any means something I live off of. It's more for like, you know, fun. Like, and I try not to underprice myself, because I'm like, if I'm gonna do it for somebody else, it has to be something I enjoy doing and also worth my time, because it's just like, I don't know. I was really worried about commissions for a long time. It's like, oh, I don't know enough commissions, like I'm not gonna look like a good enough artist. But I'm like, who cares? I'm just like, if someone wants it, they can pay me the amount that they think it's worth, and if I don't find that amount to qualify the time I'm going to put on it, I'm not going to spend the time on it, because people will try to undercut you everywhere, especially with artists, because it's just, we don't have a concrete value. Like, you can't say like, oh, this person is proficient in this, and this, you should pay them this amount. It really depends, because your style is going to be different, how you approach things is going to be different, and skill level is very hard to determine in art, just because realism and anime are like very different styles on, like, when you at first glance. So I'm just like, how do you judge it? Like, is this better than that? And I don't really believe in that anymore. Like, I don't know if I ever really did, but I truly believe like all art is subjective, and there's not bad art or good art. There can be technically bad art, I suppose, like if it's not technically done well. But I'm like, who are we to say what is art? You know, it's like, you're not, like, no one person gets to decide. So going back to the drawing, I knew I wanted her to have more of a rosy skin tone, because her hair is pink, and I thought that would look nice. I didn't want it to contrast too much with her skin. I think it honestly looks the best at this phase right now, like her face and hair. I do end up kind of overworking it a bit, and I might end up fixing that in the final piece. But, you know, it's a learning process. I don't generally do full body, full background images, and it was definitely something that taught me a lot, especially since I didn't have to do the line art myself. Like, I was telling Unli when I was texting her, like, my least favorite thing to do when I'm drawing is doing the sketch, because it just feels like, I just want to color, I just want to color, I just want to color. But it's like, that's not really fair, like, to myself, because it's just like, if you get the sketch right, you really don't have to get so concerned later. And I felt like this when I was working with her line art, that everything was in a place that it wasn't hard to guess that what was supposed to be there or not, and that's something I've had trouble with in the past when I did collabs. Like an artist, they'll send me their art, and there'll be like a very critical piece of the drawing that's missing, and because I don't have their style, or because like honestly I don't like feel like I should have to fix it if we're gonna be working together. But I know that's just like me being arrogant, because I'm just like, well, you know, I can help out. But you know, some people are very precious over their art, and I've had people get upset when I changed the line art, because I was just like, well, this is not anatomically correct, so it's something I felt like should have been fixed. It didn't look like it was purposeful, and it never got to like anything heated. Like it was usually like the only times I've done collabs with people I had been talking to for quite a while, and that was mainly back in like my DeviantArt days when I was like 15, 16, 17, doing these kinds of things. Nowadays I kind of stick to just Instagram and occasionally YouTube here and there. I love YouTube the most, just because I feel like I can get everything out in one burst, and I don't know, I don't really like keeping track with all of the posting on the different social medias. Like I've been wishing a lot, like, could I just like hire somebody to do this for me? It's like I really hate promoting myself, but it's something you have to do, and it's something I'm doing more lately just because I've had a lot of, you know, personal life changes going on, and while, you know, what doesn't kill you make you stronger, it does make everything harder, especially like, I don't know, with my job, with art, and it's just like I've been sleeping in so much lately, like again, dealing with more mental health bull crap, but in the end it's all gonna be okay. And I'll go into more about the drawing now. So I knew I wanted to have rocks in the drawing for some reason, because I was doing another painting with rocks in it, and I was just like, wow, I never paint rocks. I want to paint some rocks. So painted some big rocks next to her, and the perspective is kind of off. Like it's not perfect. I will never call myself a perspective artist, or, you know, any artist of that nature, but I do try. When it comes to like the trees and stuff, you can research landscape painting, but generally that's like your background, like where the mountains are, it's going to be cool, because that's where like atmospheric pressure changes and it gets lighter as you go back, and then as you come forward, I believe it is warmer. Like I really haven't touched up on the scientific nature of how atmospheric perspective works, but I know how to use it practically, I think. Like I know you have to like, I don't know, I know it has to be blue in the back where the mountains are. That's a very important thing. I learned that from Bob Ross. And you'll see also on the screen is just a black backpack, because the one fault I did find, I don't know if you can call it a fault, but I just felt that the backpack wasn't quite in the right perspective, so I did paint over it a bit. And I'm not saying that to be like mean or anything. It was just like I literally didn't know where to put the tone, so this is why I was like looking at it real hard. I was just like, how do I figure this out? So it was good, and I might, you know, this is also a challenge in of itself, like painting black tones, because you have to be so like, you can be subtle but you can be really harsh, and it's just like in this backpack everything's pretty subtle, so I wanted to keep it pretty subtle. When it comes to painting clothes, I mix a lot of like purples and yellows into the shadows, just because it looks cool, and I wanted this to have like a fairy vibe. And there you can see me kind of going back and drawing over the backpack a bit and trying to make it look more like it's behind her. Before it was like kind of off to the side a little bit, which isn't bad. It just, with how I placed the rock, I think it needed to be adjusted a bit. So I also wanted to make the book blue, because that's the color of the butterfly's what's it called, like abdomen, and that just, I thought that would work well with the colors and everything. I tried to mix that purple in her hair as well, and in her necklace, and the drawing ends up changing quite a bit throughout it. I really wish I had kept her face the same. Maybe I'll go back and change it, but I do end up changing it shortly, and I just don't feel like it worked as well, but we'll see. It's not like this drawing is for anything, it's just for fun. So it's also like a look inside my head and like how I work, and also what I've been thinking about. Me and Unli, we talked about some other stuff. It's a little bit of the darker nature, so I didn't want to go into it on this video, but maybe another one dedicated entirely to it. But it would be about like some tough topics, I should say, like, you know, child abuse and like just broken family structures. But I think I'll save that for like a more you know, seriously toned video, and where I can like really think over my arguments and what I want to say, because it's very important to me. It's close to home. So anyway, going back in on this drawing, I did need to go back in on her shoes. I think when I was painting it, I lost sight of her line art, and I do end up having to go back, but I don't think that's for some time. Let's see. Yeah, just a lot of, you know, painting. Another thing I wanted to talk about is basically like my layer capacity, like how many layers do I keep on the screen. And lately when I've been digital painting, because I don't like how messy I get with it, like I'll have like 100 or 200 layers, and I just do not like getting that high. I've been trying to merge them as much as possible throughout the drawing. The only struggle I have with this is because like the effect layers, when you merge them down, you like the effect like somehow merges weirdly, and it just doesn't work quite correctly. Like I don't even know how to explain it. Like I'll merge a normal layer with a multiply layer, and I'll turn the normal layer into a multiply layer or something, or the opposite, and it's just not cohesive to what I want in life. So those are the only layers I don't merge together. And when I do want to merge everything together, I'll actually just save the drawing as a PNG file, or as a PNG file, or a JPEG file, and like save it as a flat. Then we open it back into Sai, and I'm actually using Sai too, if anybody noticed. Like I don't even know if I know how to use this program, but I used Sai 1 enough that I think I know. So back to like layer frequency, I try to only make a new layer when it feels like what I have on the layer below can't be adjusted without having the flat perspective of a new layer. Like I'm not working with any of the other colors, and I can just put down flat colors easier, which I think is necessary for life in this brutal artist world, is to be able to put down your colors without them getting muddy with the layers below. So that is something I'm very grateful for. You don't have to wait for drying times in digital media. But I don't know. I had like a whole list of stuff I was gonna say. I don't know where I put it though. So yeah, I think really just being patient with this. I think I put in around like 13 hours into this drawing altogether. It got sped up quite a bit, but I think, you know, it happens. I cut out a lot of stuff because there's like a bunch of movies playing on the background. Like I wasn't recording the right screen, so there are some parts where it jumps, I think, but I think the essence of the tutorial is there. I hope that you learn just from watching as well, like how I set it up. I don't feel like I'm qualified enough yet to speak on backgrounds, but I hope just watching it makes a little bit of sense. I think it works, but like there's some things that could be adjusted. And I know I'm in like my anarchy phase of art. It's like art can be anything. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to have any rules, but it does have rules, and I try not to break them too much if I can help it, just because, you know. Oh, this is where I got crazy. It's like a whole new day, and I changed all the color palette, and I added like a bunch of crap, and I don't know if it works better or not. You guys can tell me in the comments below, but like you can see it even on my face that I was working so hard to make this look cool. And I changed, like I added a bunch of different layer effects, and this is really where I feel like I got Eloquent-Phony on it. Like, holy crap, girl, like did you even stop to think if any of this was a good idea? And I guess apparently not, because I don't know, I just kept going with it. And I think like, I don't know, I did go back and say like, hey, maybe that blue stuff's not cool, but it works. I don't know where this like video is even gonna end up, or where the final is gonna end up. I just feel like once I got to this point, I just ended up like torturing myself with it, because it's just like, this isn't this is not what I wanted. But I think it's fine, and I hope, you know, you got to see two different versions very quickly, like a warm and a cool version. So I think that's where it'll stop. And You know, now that I'm looking at this, I think those two clips were just backwards, but who cares? Um, it's fun, it's cool. Yeah, so thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys soon. Bye bye.